Okay, I can't believe I'm about to say this because I kind of thought this day was never going to happen, but here goes. We are here at the second generation Mitsubishi ASX launch. That's right, after 15 years and a lot of facelifts, Mitsubishi is finally replacing the ASX. Now, some people might be a bit disappointed to hear that it's no longer the cheap and cheerful-ish small SUV it once was. This thing has French DNA, so it's gone a little bit further up market. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this car, so let's just dive in. So it's all change for this all-new Mitsubishi ASX. The previous generation version was based on a Mitsubishi platform that goes back to the first part of this century. But this version is a mechanical twin of the Renault Captur. As a result, that pricing has gone up. In fact, the entry price for an ASX is now about $10,000 more than the old version.
So the ASX used to start from around $26,000 before on-road costs, but the new model kicks off at $37,740 before on-road costs for the LS. Note that the old base GS grade is gone. Beyond the LS, there's a mid-spec Aspire, then the Exceed tops the lineup at $46,490. This new pricing and positioning elevates the ASX from a GWM Haval jolly-on rival. It now competes with the likes of the Nissan Qashqai, Honda HR-V and Subaru Crosstrek. Good thing then that Mitsubishi has packed the little SUV with a decent level of standard kit, like a 10.4-inch multimedia screen, 17-inch alloy wheels and a 7-inch digital cluster on the LS. The flagship Exceed comes with a panoramic sunroof, two-tone paint, leather seats, heated front seats and more. But the mid-spec Aspire represents the best value with a pretty stacked features list. For more details on standard equipment, check out the written review at carsguide.com.au.
I quite liked the design of the original ASX, and I'm talking about the original from way back in 2010. It was a handsome little car, and then by the time it got its final facelift a few years ago, it was once again a handsome car. There were a few iffy facelifts in between. This is a whole new car, so it's a whole new look. But if you've seen images of the facelifted version of the Renault Captur, this is probably going to be pretty familiar. However, Mitsubishi has Mitsubishiified it and added some things like its dynamic shield front end and a slightly tweaked rear end. Honestly, it's a really handsome little car. I was quite a fan of the Captur before it got a facelift, and I think this looks really nice in the metal as well. Probably the most obvious improvement over the old ASX is right here in the front of the cabin. The old ASX was old. I've said that word a lot in this video and you'll probably hear it again. But this one feels like it's from a completely different world. It is much nicer, it's much more modern. There's quite a lot to like about the new ASX cabin. It's not the last word in interior design. It's not particularly minimalist. It feels a bit bulbous here with the dash, particularly on the passenger side. And I don't love a screen that kind of sticks up quite far out of the dash like this one does. But in terms of materials, it is light years ahead of the old model. There's soft touch materials everywhere except for kind of lower door panels, which is really impressive. Yes, this is the Exceed grade, which on road is about $50,000, but it feels a little bit more premium. Not so premium that it's going to compete with premium brands. It is very dark in here. There's not a lot of contrasting color. There's a little bit of chrome and that kind of thing, but it is very one note. So this is the Exceed, and this gets the floating console, and you get this in the Aspire as well. This will be familiar if you've been in something like a Renault Megane E-Tech. It looks very similar, but it gets this little notchy gear shifter, which I think is actually quite cool. My knees aren't really hitting this when I'm driving or anything, so that's great. You've got a phone charger under there. There's lots of little nooks. You can put a bunch of stuff up here. You've got a couple of USB-C ports and a 12-volt outlet as well. There's also the central bin. It's not massive, but there's just a lot of places to put things, which I think is really handy and really good for this segment. I think people really respond to that in the small SUV segment. Bottle storage up the front is great. You can fit quite big bottles up front here. And yeah, look, overall amenities get a tick. So the Aspire and the Exceed get Google built in, which includes Google Maps, Google Play, Google Assistant. I've used that system in another manufacturer's car and it is excellent. Once you log in, you've got all of your places. It's super, super handy. It's a shame it's not in the LS, but it's a great system. And when you're not using it, the rest of the screen is very logically laid out and pretty easy to kind of drill down. This new ASX is a bit shorter in length compared to the old one. However, the wheelbase is roughly the same. And that's good news for interior space. I'm sitting here in the second row behind my driving position, which is about 6 foot tall. And I've got a decent amount of legroom. They've scalloped out some space here in the backs of the seats. So knee room is really good, heaps of toe room. There's a lot more space in here than I was expecting. Headroom, again, they've scalloped out space in the roof here. So it's not too bad directly above me. I've got about that much between my noggin and the roof ladder. But the side here kind of comes in a little bit. So if you're moving around a bit in the car, you might bang your head. However, it's nice and cushioned, so it's not that bad. These seats are quite comfortable and look really lovely as well. Another thing about the old ASX, it had really overly cushioned seats, like you used to kind of sink into them. It was the same as the Lancer, which it was related to. These are a lot more supportive and just quite nice. This is, again, a much nicer space than I was expecting back here. And that's also because of the amenities you get as a rear seat passenger. Bottle-wise, you're probably only going to get a narrow bottle like that in the door, but you can fit like a phone and a few other things there. You can also probably slot a phone here in the door armrest as well. The great news is it has rear seat air vents, which is so rare in a car in this segment. I can't even tell you, it's ridiculous. So thank you, Mitsubishi/Renault. There's also 2 USB-C ports down there, a 12-volt outlet, a couple of map pockets. The only thing really you're missing is a central armrest back here, but honestly, I don't think you need it. The previous generation Mitsubishi ASX had quite decent boot space for a car of this size. This one's got a little bit more, and those figures are on your screen right now. It's also got an underfloor storage situation, which is actually really quite handy. So as you can see here, it sits up nice and flat, but if you pull that up, there's a huge amount of underfloor storage here. Now, interestingly, you don't get a temporary spare wheel or a full-size spare wheel as standard in this car. You get the tyre repair kit. However, under that lower floor is enough space for a temporary spare wheel, and you can buy one as an accessory for about $750. The other cool feature about the ASX's luggage compartment is that you can actually move the base of the rear seats forward, and that liberates quite a bit more space for your luggage, which is quite handy. For now, all ASX grades are powered by the same 1.3-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, delivering 113 kilowatts of power and 270 newton meters of torque. Now, this is front-wheel drive only, and it drives those front wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, so no all-wheel drive for now.
The new ASX consumes 6.4 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle and emits 142 grams per kilometre of CO2. It drinks 91 RON fuel and has a 48-litre tank, which makes for a theoretical driving range of about 750 kilometres.
I've not driven an ASX in a few years, but over the last 15 years, I've driven an ASX several times in the various iterations and facelifts. And it's fair to say, it wasn't a driver's car. It was a great first car. It was a great car for somebody who doesn't really care that much about dynamics and driving, engagement, and things like that. So, is this new one better on that front? I hope so. Let's see what this 1.3 litre engine is like from a standing start. Oh. Okay. She's revvy, but it sounds a lot nicer than the old one, and that's helped in part because we've got a dual clutch transmission here. It's not particularly jerky either. I've obviously been driving this car all day, and the transmission's been pretty smooth for a dual clutch. When I see that a car has a dual clutch, I'm often a bit disappointed and thinking, why couldn't you just put a torque converter in there? But this is a European car and they love a dual clutch. But this one's pretty good. So this is the Exceed that I'm driving. This and the Aspire has 18-inch alloy wheels. The LS has 17s. The ride on this is all right. It's not particularly supple, but it's not particularly jiggly either. It's kind of a bit mid, as the kids would say. There's nothing that I can really point out that's terrible. In saying that, when you hit a pothole, of which there's been a number of on this drive, you will notice it. I'm driving on a regional road at the moment. There's not a lot of vibration through the wheel. It's not particularly jiggly. Earlier in town, in urban areas, it was a pretty smooth car around town. Possibly not unsurprisingly, it handles corners a lot better than the old ASX. That would not be hard. There's a little bit of body roll there, but it's like kind of a bit fun actually in these corners. Ooh. Yeah, and it pulls out of the corners pretty well as well. In the bends, here we go again. Yeah, okay, ASX. Okay, ASX, yes. This is a much more engaging car than the old one. Is it as engaging as some of its rivals? Well, absolutely. When it comes to something like, I don't know, Subaru Crosstrek, for example, that's not particularly exciting, but maybe putting it up against something like a Mazda CX-30 would really showcase whether this is as competent dynamically as it feels right now. Steering's sharp enough. It's kind of feels a bit on the heavier side. You can adjust some of those things in the modes, but it's still pretty direct. This isn't the last word in hushed cabins, but it is, you know, a small car platform. You know, you're going to get a bit of engine noise, but it's not bad. And again, around town on smoother roads, I think you'll find it reasonably quiet.
The new ASX is yet to be tested by ANCAP, but Mitsubishi's anticipating a 4-star rating to match its European score. All the expected advanced driver assistance features are present, like auto emergency braking, lane departure warning and prevention, and a driver attention alert. But the base LS misses out on features like blind spot warning and rear cross traffic alert. For more on safety, check out the written review at carsguide.com.au. Mitsubishi's standard warranty is 5 years or 100,000 kilometres, but if you service your car exclusively at a Mitsubishi dealer, it extends to an impressive 10 years or 200,000 kilometres. You'll also get 10 years of roadside assistance and cap price servicing. The pricing starts from $349 per service, but bigger services every 4 years will cost a bit more. The schedule for servicing is every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres.
It's an all-new model, but it's not an unfamiliar model. It's very different from the model it replaces, but is it better?
It's fair to say the new ASX represents a dramatic improvement over the old model. Not surprising, given they are completely different cars with completely different underpinnings. The ASX is not the bargain basement small SUV it used to be, and that's not a bad thing. This new model is much more refined, sophisticated, and fun to drive. It's an appealing package with great design and some neat new tech. The new ASX deserves to be considered as a rival for some of the better models in the segment. For more on the ASX and to view over 12,000 reviews, head to carsguide.com.au.